So on March 20th, we got this high school shooting in Maryland at Great Mills High School. And then today, on March 21st, we got this story of the Austin bomber finally being found out who he was, and then he committed suicide. And this has been an ongoing topic since the beginning of March. But what I'm going to show in this video is Gematria, which is the practice of coding numbers into words and phrases. See the link in the description, or there's multiple links, and you'll understand more of what I'm talking about, why I'm talking about it. But every day our media is coded with this system, and they also interrelate stories that are related to other events, such as an earthquake that was in Delaware before the Super Bowl this year was synced up to the Eagles being in the Super Bowl. It might sound crazy, but go back and watch some of my videos. There's lots of interrelated events that are going on in the world and in the media, most importantly, that are synced up to other things. And these two stories are absolutely synced up to Wrestlemania 34, the WWE or the WWF wrestling. Before I even get into the numbers, right away what I noticed was in this Maryland high school shooting, and I know lots of other people had pointed it out as well, but the kid, his name is Austin Wyatt Rollins, and anybody who has watched even just a little bit of the WWE in the last 10 years would possibly think of this. Austin Wyatt Rollins, Stone Cold Steve Austin, Bray Wyatt, and Seth Rollins. It was an interesting name. And then the very next day, we get the story about Austin, Texas, and the Austin Bomber, and Stone Cold Steve Austin even from there. That's partially where his name came from. So there's a definite connection to the WWE that I noticed. And what I noticed in this Maryland story was a bunch of 34 stuff. Maryland and Gematria, it equals 34. And they highlighted the word lockdown. You know, it was the central topic of the story yesterday. The school was on lockdown. Lockdown equals 34. Maryland equals 34. This story came 34 days after the Stoneman Douglas shooting on Valentine's Day. And Austin Wyatt Rollins equals 214 in Gematria. Valentine's Day is 214. And what else I pointed out was Great Mills High School. It was established in 1929, and 1929 was the year of the St. Valentine's Day Massacre in Chicago that the Stoneman Douglas shooting was synced up to. Also, in regards to 34, the officer who stopped the shooting, supposedly, was 34-year-old Blaine Gaskill. So yet another 34. Maryland 34, the 34-year-old cop. And in regards to his name, I pointed out that Wrestlemania 34 was coming up, and he has a name that reminds us of a lot of people that are involved in the WWE. So then the big story today was about the Austin Bomber. And just think about that for a second. Austin Bomber, reminding us a lot of the Boston bombings as well. Austin bombings, Boston bombings. But staying on topic here, the guy's name, the Austin Bomber, was Mark Anthony Condit, and I figured I'd look up his name in regards to the WWE because possibly it was connected to Stone Cold Steve Austin in regards to Austin, Texas. And what came up was this article about WWE superstar Mark Henry being friends with one of the Austin bombing victims. I mean, how many people... Not very many people died from these Austin bombings. What are the odds that a WWE wrestler is friends with this 17-year-old victim even? So you knew it was connected to the WWE and Wrestlemania 34. And even when I looked up Mark Henry here, Mark Henry, his birthday, June 12th. And if you recall, the Orlando Pulse nightclub, think about Pulse in the heart, that was on 6/12, June 12th, so his birthday. And it was in Orlando, which is in a similar area as Stoneman Douglas. Stoneman Douglas happened 612 days after the Orlando Pulse nightclub shooting. and that was on 6/12, and it was on Valentine's Day, and Valentine's in Gematria equals 612. So now we got Mark Henry, who was born on that day that syncs up to Valentine's Day. And if you remember, there was also, I can't remember the year now, I think it was in 1999, on Valentine's Day, the WWE had a pay-per-view called the St. Valentine's Day Massacre. And if you go back and look that up, you'll find that Jeff Jarrett and Owen Hart defeated D'Lo Brown and Mark Henry at the St. Valentine's Day Massacre. And then 99 days later, Owen Hart ended up dying on Over the Edge, a pay-per-view, on May 23rd. And that was in the year 1999, and he died 99 days later on 5/23. The 99th prime number is 523. And the guy who supposedly was the Austin Bomber, his name even equals 99 in Gematria. And if you go from Mark Henry's birthday, let's go here. I didn't put this in the blog yet, but if you go from Mark Henry's birthday to the day that this guy finally killed himself, 9 months and 9 days even. So a definite connection to this 99 stuff. What are the odds Owen Hart dies just after that, and he even defeats Mark Henry? But it gets even better, because the reason that Stone Cold Steve Austin had to retire from wrestling was because of a botched pile driver that Owen Hart supposedly did to him at one of the pay-per-views. And I'm going to talk about that more as we go along. But I wanted to show how it's interrelated to Stone Cold Steve Austin. The death of Owen Hart was really important. Also, in regards to 99, don't forget that Donald Trump equals 523, the 99th prime number. And remember, Stone Cold gave Donald Trump a Stone Cold Stunner in WrestleMania 23. So just think about that in regards to Donald Trump, how it's interrelated into Donald Trump. Donald Trump's name equals 523 in Gematria. This WrestleMania 23 was also in 2007, which was the year of the Minneapolis Bridge collapse that I will elaborate on as we move along. Also, before I get any farther, in regards to Mark Henry being born on the same day as the Pulse nightclub shooting in Orlando on 6/12, this Maryland shooting also, at that high school, we had Tubby Smith, who coached in Minnesota for a number of years, but he also went to high school there, and that's where he began his coaching career. But look what his real name is, Orlando Henry Smith. How interesting, Orlando. And he finished his coaching career with Memphis, and then he got fired just recently, and they replaced him with Penny Hardaway. Penny Hardaway, famous for the Orlando Magic. So, how interesting. I'll bring some more back up about Orlando in a little bit, but let's stick to the main topic here. So, Owen Hart, that St. Valentine's Day Massacre that he died just at 99 days after, that was the 70th anniversary of the real St. Valentine's Day Massacre in 1929. If you read out Mark Condit, the Austin Bomber, his name equals 70, and then they said he committed suicide. Suicide equals 34, the number I was talking about in the beginning, that's connected to WrestleMania 34, but it also equals 70. And if you write Steve Austin, it equals 70. And if you write his real name, Stephen James Anderson, it equals 70. And if you write out 70, 70 equals 34. And Owen Hart even died at the age of 34. What are the odds? Owen Hart dies at age 34. He's the reason Stone Cold Steve Austin had to retire from wrestling. I also pointed out that the Maryland shooting was 19 days before WrestleMania 34, and the Austin Bomber was caught after 19 days. Or he killed himself after 19 days. It began on March 2nd, and then he ends up committing suicide on March 21st, 19 days. 19 is a number important to the Stoneman Douglas shooting of that was the 19-year-old Nicholas Cruz. Valentine's also equals 67 in Gematria, and the 19th prime number is 67. And Nicholas Cruz, supposedly 19 years old, born exactly 19 weeks after Marjorie Stoneman Douglas died in 1998. Nicholas Cruz equals 67. It was really synced up to the Chicago Cubs, who won in 2016, just like the Stoneman Douglas Eagles, who won the championship in 2016 as well, the baseball championship. But the Cubs won exactly 67 weeks before the Stoneman Douglas shooting, and they beat the Cleveland Indians. Cleveland Indians equals 67. Anthony Rizzo, a Chicago Cubs player, went to Stoneman Douglas High School. He was born 6 months, 7 days before Valentine's Day. A whole lot more. So just know that it's important, and it's interesting that the Maryland shooting was 19 days before Wrestlemania, and the Austin bomber, he was doing it for 19 days before he killed himself. Even more significant, look at this. So if you go from Stone Cold Steve Austin's birthday to the day that the Austin bomber kills himself, 3 months and 4 days. What are the odds of that? Another 34. We're going into WrestleMania 34. If you read out 34, it equals 61. And these bombings even started on the 61st day of the year. So if you go back and look, it was SummerSlam 1997 on August 3rd that Owen Hart did the botched pile driver and eventually led to Stone Cold's retirement. And Stone Cold had to retire at the age of 38, and his name in Gematria, Steve Austin, equals 38. And think about August 3rd, how in most parts of the world they can even write it as 3/8. In America, we write it as 8/3. But most parts of the world, they even write it as 3/8. It's fitting for retirement as well, because the word death equals 38. Death to his career, kind of. But if you go from August 3rd to Valentine's Day, it's 6 months and 12 days. A span of 6 months and 12 days, once again. Reminding us of Mark Henry's birthday, reminding us of Valentine's. So, what happened with Stone Cold was that pile driver injured him in 1997, and then in 1999, they faked a car crashing into him. That was the storyline of the WWE. So Steve Austin could go get surgery on his neck. So they took him out by him supposedly getting hit by a car at Survivor Series on November 14th, 1999, which was 5 months and 23 days after Owen Hart died on 5/23. What are the odds? Owen Hart dies in 99 on 5/23. He's the one who originally messed up Stone Cold's neck, and then Stone Cold gets surgery 5 months and 23 days after 5/23 when Owen Hart dies. So on Wikipedia, it says that Stone Cold was only out for 9 months. But if you actually go from the dates, he was out from November. The car crashed into him on November 14th, and then he made his comeback on September 24th of 2000, which was 316 days later at Unforgiven. And just think about it. Stone Cold Steve Austin 316. That's been a really big topic this year in regards to the NFL and kneeling during the national anthem. I was talking about how it was connected to Charles Manson, and then not even a month later, Charles Manson died because he had the old helter-skelter theory about blacks rising up, and it was synced up to kneeling during the national anthem. And the original kneeler is Tim Tebow, who had the 316 game against the Steelers. And Aaron Hernandez even wrote John 3:16 in blood in his jail cell. Then we had the Patriots in the Super Bowl. A whole bunch of 316. Jesus Christ in Hebrew Gematria even equals 316. And just think about it. John 3:16. Steve Austin makes his comeback 316 days after having neck surgery. But the reason that that's so interesting is because the day that he came back was 9/24, which is also the day Nicholas Cruz, the kid who supposedly shot up Stoneman Douglas, was born. 9/24. He was born in the year 98. This is the day that leaves 98 days in the year. But this was also the day that Stone Cold came out and debuted his song that everybody knows, where there's the crashing noise and then it's like dun 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 dun, 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 right? The theme song that everybody remembers Stone Cold Steve Austin from. It was debuted on 9/24 on this comeback, and it just so happened to be in Philadelphia, Pennsylvania. Philadelphia has just been a big area of topic in regards to multiple things I've been talking about. It's even connected to love because Phi means love, right? That's why it's the city of brotherly love. Philadelphia is the city of brotherly love. I've talked about Philadelphia a whole lot in regards to earthquakes, and they're synced up to a bridge collapse. And think about, I've been talking about this for months, and then we just got the Miami bridge collapse, right? But I really feel like there's more to come. They're really syncing it up to the Golden Gate Bridge, which in a roundabout way, I'm telling you, I think it's still synced up to Philadelphia and possibly the Benjamin Franklin Bridge. Just because it's all interrelated. They're really showing the Golden Gate Bridge a whole lot. And the Golden Gate Bridge will be 81 years old this year, or opened for 81 years. And in Gematria, Golden Gate Bridge equals 81, frontwards and backwards. The Super Bowl was in Minneapolis, and Minneapolis is famous for the bridge collapse that happened on 8/1 and fell 81 feet, and the main trusses were 81 meters long, and it took the emergency people 81 minutes to transfer them to the hospital. But anyway, I'm going to leave some links in the description because before Ronda Rousey signed with the WWE, there was something that was leading me to Ronda Rousey, and it was in regards to Philadelphia, and I started talking about some of my old stuff that I was talking about with Ronda Rousey and how she was synced up to Roddy Piper. And then she comes out dressed up like Roddy Piper and everything, wearing the flame thing, Rowdy Ronda Rousey, Rowdy Ronda, Roddy Piper. And that song, Stone Cold Steve Austin's theme song, it's by the band Disturbed. Let me find it here again. It's called Glass Crashing. Maybe I didn't put it in here. The song is called Glass Crashing by Disturbed, or Glass Shatters by Disturbed. Disturbed, just before Roddy Piper died, Disturbed put out a video. Can't think of what the name of the song was called, but they're like, "The Hand of God, I'm the Dark Messiah." And in that music video, they were doing a play on the movie They Live. And they were showing all of these subliminal stuff that most people don't see. And if you've never seen the movie They Live, Roddy Piper has these special sunglasses that he puts on, and he can see the lies in the world. And Disturbed, just before Roddy Piper died, Disturbed put out a music video that was doing a play on that. They even went in and they shot up the news people at the news station on that video. And then Roddy Piper dies not even a month later. And the day after Roddy Piper died, we had Rowdy Ronda Rousey. She won a fight in 34 seconds. Let me find it here. But she won her fight in 34 seconds. And there was even stuff about how she talked to Roddy Piper about getting that name, Rowdy Ronda Rousey. But I believe it was the day after he died on 8/1, reminding us of bridge symbolism yet again. Ronda Rousey won her fight in 34 seconds, and she beat Beth Korea, or however you say that name, who is currently 34 years old. And Ronda Rousey, I pointed out in my old video that Ronda Rousey even trained on 34 degrees north, and she lost her first fight later on. Later on, I pointed out that she lost her first fight to 34-year-old Holly Holm, who had her debut fight on 3/4 in the MMA. And I talked about how it was synced up to Philadelphia and a possible earthquake because there's a connection to Hulk Hogan. And remember, earthquake broke Hulk Hogan's ribs. He broke Hulk Hogan's ribs on the Brother Love show, right? Brother Love, reminding us of Valentine's Day, Philadelphia, the city of brotherly love. And then Hulk Hogan came back and got his revenge against Earthquake at SummerSlam in Philadelphia at the Spectrum, is what it was called. SummerSlam in Philadelphia. So Hulk Hogan got his ribs broke by Earthquake in Philadelphia, and then he got his revenge in Philadelphia. And it was on the Brother Love show that synced up because Philadelphia is called the city of brotherly love. Earthquake's real name is even John Tenta, that equals 44 and 107, just like the word earthquake. Stone Cold even equals 44 and 107. So there's definitely something synced up to earthquakes. Even in the Bible, Revelation 6:12 talks about the great earthquake. So just think about that in regards to Valentine's Day. There's definitely something significant to earthquakes. Even, I said I wasn't going to go off, but we've even recently got that helicopter crash in the East River. And before that, we had the helicopter crash in Mexico City where they were surveying the earthquake, right? And if you recall, last summer in 2017, we also got Shane McMahon was in a helicopter crash. So I know there's something synced up to it. There's something synced up to them helicopter crashes that they're showing us an earthquake and how it's connected to a bunch of other things. Pope Francis is involved in it. Pope Francis came to America and finished his trip in Philadelphia. He even gave a speech using Abraham Lincoln's Gettysburg Address lectern. And all of this stuff with 34 is synced up to Civil War stuff that I documented in 2015 like no other. Stone Cold, even on Wikipedia at least, and it says citation needed, but it talks about how 316 actually refers to the Stone Cold Stunner. It has 3 words and contains 16 letters. So, if that is true, and Wikipedia, they completely write the weirdest stuff in here all the time on purpose, and then they'll change it, but they write it for a certain agenda so people will read it, and then they'll change it at a later time, if that makes any sense. But if you write out Stone Cold Stunner, it equals 214, just like Valentine's Day. So I thought that was interesting. Also, if you just look up the town Austin, Texas, there's a man-made lake there called Lady Bird Lake. And remember the Oscars that were on 3, 4, and they had, this movie was nominated a whole bunch of times, this movie Lady Bird. It didn't win anything, but it was nominated a whole bunch of times, and it was a big topic at the Oscars that were on 3, 4. Oscar in Gematria equals 34. And I'll leave a link to my Kobe Bryant video in regards to it. Kobe Bryant was nominated 34 days before winning the Oscar on 3, 4, and a bunch of stuff with Kobe Bryant. And Kobe Bryant has that connection to Philadelphia. But, you know, he couldn't play with Shaq, and there's a Shaq who wore number 34, and when he tore his Achilles, he's 34 years old. And he scored, I think he scored 34 points in that game, or maybe 43, the reflection. Just lots of stuff with Kobe. He came back 34 weeks after tearing his Achilles, and it was against Golden State. And then just before he announced his retirement, before playing the Philadelphia 76ers, the Lakers had lost to the Warriors by 34 points. So a bunch of 34 stuff. And just interesting, Austin, Texas would have this lake called Lady Bird Lake. We had Lady Berg, pretty popular at the Oscars. Lady Bird Lake is supposedly named after LBJ's wife, the president in 1964, after Kennedy, Lady Bird Johnson. And they got married in the year 34 even, which I thought was interesting. After marrying Lyndon B. Johnson in 1934, blah, 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 Austin, Texas. And I also pointed out that the 34th president was Dwight Eisenhower. And Dwight Eisenhower, interesting if you look him up, it talks about how he established NASA. He authorized the establishment of NASA, which the Stoneman Douglas stuff is super synced up to the moon. And the Eagles winning the Super Bowl, the Stoneman Douglas Eagles, and the Eagle landing on the moon. That's why we got the Falcon Heavy launch. And that's why we got the death of Chester Bennington of the band Linkin Park. And Linkin Park was where the original St. Valentine's Day Massacre was. Chester Bennington's birthday just so happened to be on March 20th, the same day as the Maryland shooting, 34 days after. But there's a big space theme, and Eisenhower, if you notice, established NASA, and which led to the space race. Think about that in the rockets. Think about that in regards to Russia and Putin saying, making that propaganda video where supposedly they showed Florida. Just think about that. But if you read more about Eisenhower, you find out that his favorite game was actually Contract Bridge, the card game Bridge, and he was even well known for playing bridge at the White House. They had Sunday night bridge games. If I could find it here. I don't know, you can read through there, but yeah, Saturday night bridge games were a feature of his presidency, is what it says in there. Bridge, the bridge symbolism. He was the 34th president. The way back when, I was talking a lot about the Civil War and this number 34. And Kansas became the 34th and the last state to join the Union 34 days before 3/4, which is the day that Abraham Lincoln became the president. And Lincoln's really synced up to 43, the reflection of 34. Civil War equals 43, and he was born on the 43rd day of the year, and he died 4 years, 3 days after the Civil War began. And just a whole bunch of stuff with 43 and 34 I was documenting. And I documented how the 20th Amendment had changed a president from starting on 3/4 to January 20th because they wanted to lower the lame duck period. Lame duck in Gematria equals 34. And it began with Eisenhower. Eisenhower was the first president to begin his presidency on January 20th, the 34th president. It actually started with FDR, but FDR didn't begin his presidency on 120 because he went through so many terms or whatever. So Eisenhower, the first president to begin his presidency on January 20th, not 3/4, and he's the 34th president. And when you look at the amendments, it talks about how 33 of them have been proposed, even though there's only 27, but 33 have been proposed by the United States Constitution. And the Constitution was put into operation on 3/4 of 1789. So 3/4 again. And just think about that, there's 33. So it just makes me wonder if they're going to propose a 34th Amendment sometime in the near future. Because of all the 34 stuff, there's 33 proposed amendments, and the Constitution was put into operation on 3/4, the day they used to have presidents begin. So a few other things that I forgot to mention in regards to Philadelphia is there was even these concerts that supposedly got canceled, the South by Southwest, because of this bomber. And some of the performances were The Roots and Ludacris, it says on Wikipedia. The Roots are from Philadelphia, and Ludacris, if you remember, just before the Super Bowl in Minneapolis, Ludacris played one of the pregame shows. Ludacris's real name, his last name is Bridges. So they were syncing it up to Bridges yet again, and also it's connected to Philadelphia through the Roots. And Minneapolis is even the 612 area code. And remember, Marjorie Stoneman Douglas was born in Minneapolis, Minnesota. A ton of other things that are going with it. Also, a while back, I even documented about a possible earthquake in Minnesota that was connected to 10 Mile Lake. I need to go back and look at that, but I don't know. Makes me wonder. Maybe it is synced up for a Minnesota earthquake. There's something going on with earthquake though, and Minneapolis will be a prime area in regards to Revelation 6:12, and it being the 612 area code, and it would stun a lot of people even thinking about it. Stone Cold Stunner, cold Minneapolis. I don't know. I'm just trying to piece it together in my head. So one last thing that I want to point out is in WrestleMania 31, that was when Ronda Rousey had made her kind of her first appearance or whatever. If you remember, she got to come in and she was supposed to beat up, I think, Stephanie McMahon or something, but she wasn't actually signed with the WWE. And that was WrestleMania 31 that was in Levi's Stadium in San Francisco. And Triple H did the whole, he came out in the Terminator Genesis stuff, and then they showed the clip of the bus crashing on the Golden Gate Bridge from the movie Terminator Genesis. And it was in the San Francisco area. So once again, they were showing us this bridge symbolism. And then they even involved Ronda Rousey with it. But that was also WrestleMania 31 was when Sting made his WWE debut, was in WrestleMania 31. And think about Sting coming from the ceiling, reminding us of how Owen Hart died. It's just synced up that way. Sting coming from the ceiling. I know Sting was from Omaha, Nebraska, and his birthday was March 20th. And he turned 59, and he was born in the year 59. This number is around death. And WrestleMania 34 this year just so happens to fall on the anniversary of the Ultimate Warrior, Jim Hellwig, dying on April 8th. And these two guys came into wrestling together. Sting and James Hellwig, they came into the WWF together, and they were good friends and whatever else. So there's something going on with why WrestleMania is on 4/8 this year. Is it synced up to the death of the Ultimate Warrior, it was synced up to the Cleveland Cavaliers winning the NBA Finals on the real King James's birthday. And then, LeBron James is King James. This year, I talked about how it was synced up to their Halloween outfits too. And because that year, LeBron James was Prince for Halloween, and Kevin Love was Jackie Moon, and there was a moon theme. Prince died on the night of a full moon at the age of 57. Moon equals 57. But LeBron James was Prince, and Kevin Love was Jackie Moon. This year, LeBron James was It, and Kevin Love was Sting. So it might be synced up to the Cleveland Cavaliers. I've been saying all year, I think it's for the Cavaliers and the Rockets, which is why I think there's a big Orlando thing as well, reminding us of the Orlando Pulse nightclub. And the Rockets beat Orlando in 94, Shaq's Magic team. And Magic Johnson had a bunch of connections to it all. But I'm not going to go on to it. And also the Kennedy Space Center, whatever it is in Orlando that's just outside of Orlando, the Space Center. But interesting, Sting was born on March 20th, and he's from Omaha, which I've been talking about March 20th, March 21st, and how there was something synced up to Omaha that possibly was just symbolic that I'm supposed to see. March 21st, the 80th day, and Omaha, Nebraska equals 80 at Gematria. So, I don't know. Just found that interesting. And that's also the same day as, like I said, Chester Bennington from Lincoln Park was born on this day. I talked about, in my post about Omaha, I mentioned how it was in relation to Lincoln as well. Omaha and Lincoln, Nebraska, and the Cornhuskers. It will take me 5 hours to re-explain it all, but there's a huge thing in regards to Teen Wolf that is connected to the Nebraska Cornhuskers and why they had Mike Riley as a coach, because in the film Teen Wolf, it's all about the Nebraska Cornhuskers in the background, and they're the Oregon State, or their mascots in the movie is the Beavers, based off of the Oregon State Beaver, where Mike Riley came from. And now they got Scott Frost, who came from the space charter school, the space school. So there's a bunch going on with it. And it all goes back to San Francisco and Levi Stadium and Moses being in the tribe of Levi and Moses freeing the slaves, just like Abraham Lincoln supposedly freed the slaves. So the reason I bring all that up and how it's connected to the wolf symbolism was because Sting was in the Wolf Pack. And when Kevin Love dressed up like him, he even dressed up like Sting from the Wolf Pack era. So there's something with Wolf. Just lots of stuff going on with it. Lupercalia, the festival where they celebrate and sacrifice the wolf. Valentine's Day just so happens to be the second day. And once again, everything that I've been talking about is synced up to all my videos and information from 2015 that has been back recently. That's how I was pretty sure the Eagles would be in the Super Bowl, because there's a bunch of Philadelphia stuff. There was an earthquake in November, the end of November, that was felt in Philadelphia, something I had talked about in 2015. And Kevin Love was a big part of that, because Kevin Love got traded for Andrew Wiggins, and he came, Kevin Love was the Timberwolf, and the Andrew Wiggins was the Teen Wolf, and Zach LaVine was another Teen Wolf, and they both did well in the All-Star week that fell over Lupercalia. Zach LaVine, sounds like loving, he even won the slam dunk contest with the Space Jam jersey and a bunch of other stuff. Something to do with, can't remember what it was, but something to do with Pepe Le Pew even in the movie Space Jam, and how it synced up to Bill Murray. He was all about the number 67. Also, in regards to the helicopter crashes, the reason it was, I'll leave a link in the description, but the reason it was significant was because I said how it reminded me of the Andreas Lubitz story, the guy who intentionally crashed an airplane. I can't remember the year, I think it was 2015. And they showed pictures of him with the Golden Gate Bridge, and his name was Andreas Lubitz, right? Reminding us of the San Andreas Fault. So, there's something, these stories are interrelated and they're coming for a certain reason with a lot of stuff. I mean, it's all pointing to the WWE, but the WWE, I'm telling you, it's synced up to Philadelphia and Hulk Hogan. Should look up Hulk Hogan really quick. Before I'm done here, I'm just going to look up Hulk Hogan. His birthday is August 11th, 64. I'm going to see, hold on one sec. So Hulk Hogan's birthday, Hulk Hogan will be 65 years old this year on, where is it? Hulk Hogan will be 65 years old 4 months and 4 days after Wrestlemania this year. Remember, Earthquake equals 44 in Gematria, and he'll be 65 years old. Philadelphia in Gematria equals 65. So how interesting, His birthday also, I believe his birthday is also 223 days before 321. Let me do this really quick. His name equals 321, 2001, 8. 223 days before they got this guy in Austin, Texas. 31 weeks and 6 days even, reminding us of 316. How interesting. Philadelphia, 223. I don't know. Something interesting. And also, look at Hulk Hogan. Like when I was looking at Hulk Hogan here, I forgot that Hulk Hogan was even in Rocky, the Rocky film, something that Zenith of the Alpha has been pointing out. I have a whole blog post on a video he recently made, and it's too much for this video, but there's definitely something going on with Rocky and the connections to Philadelphia and bridge collapses and earthquakes that I've been talking about. Think about Rocky, rocks moving, the earth moving. And it even says that Hulk Hogan was inducted in the WWE Hall of Fame in 2005 by Sylvester Stallone, the guy who plays Rocky. And then he was even in Rocky 3. Rocky super connected to Philadelphia. How interesting. His name, Terry Bollea, I've documented so much of this, I just keep forgetting it. His real name, Terry Bollea, They even equal 65 in Gematria. So he's going to be 65 years old, 4 months and 4 days after WrestleMania. So I'm going to leave it there. I need to do some more research. There's a whole bunch of other things that I wanted to look into. There might even be something to do with the real Mark Henry, like the railroad guy. The Philadelphia trade wreck was really big in regards to the symbolism with Pope Francis and the bridge stuff. Pope Francis is really connected to the bridge. Pontiff means bridge. Bridge builder. Remember, Donald Trump wanted to build the wall, and then Pope Francis said, you know, you're not a Christian if you want to build walls and not build bridges. So, and then the big pun was that the irony was that there's Bibles all throughout, or there's bridges all throughout the Bible. Just a stupid joke, but gonna leave it there. Just want to show how it's connected to WWE. Got more research to do, but it's definitely something synced up to Philadelphia. If somebody watches more WWE, I haven't watched it since the Royal Rumble with Ronda Rousey. I only watched like the last 20 minutes or whatever it was of it. I don't ever watch wrestling. So somebody who knows wrestling can totally probably figure this puzzle out. I just don't know enough about wrestling. So I'm only going back from when I was a kid and trying to piece this together. So have a good one. Peace.